And now may I request everybody to stand for the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to all of you. At a time when conversations around national security, conflict, leadership, and modern warfare are more relevant than ever, we are deeply honored to host three distinguished personalities who bring invaluable frontline experience from both the battlefield and journalism. We are privileged to welcome Air Chief Marshal Brinder Singh Dhanova, former Chief of the Air Staff of the Indian Air Force. A distinguished fighter pilot, he has flown advanced aircrafts including MiG-29, Sukhoi 30, MKI, and the Rafale. He led the Indian Air Force during defining moments such as the Balakot airstrike and earlier played a key role during the Kargil conflict, where his squadron undertook pioneering night bombing missions. A recipient of the PVSM, AVSM, YSM, and Vayu Sena Medal, his contribution to India's defense has been truly exemplary. Sir, we are honored by your presence. We also extend a warm welcome to Major General Dinesh Kumar Singh, General Officer commanding Bengal Sub-Area. Over the course of a distinguished career, he has served in some of India's most challenging operational environments and held several important commands, staff, and diplomatic appointments, including Defense Attaché to Brazil and Chief of Staff at Headquarters 14 Corps. A highly decorated officer, he's a recipient of the Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal, and multiple commendation cards. Sir, we are privileged to have you with us. And of course, we are delighted to welcome Barkha Dutt once again at Lady Study Group, one of India's most respected and fearless journalists. From her iconic reporting during the Kargil War to coverage of conflict zones across the world, she has consistently brought depth, courage, and empathy to her work. As the founder of the Mojo Story, she continues to lead impactful and critical developments in West Asia reporting. Barkha, we are truly delighted to have you lead this conversation today. On behalf of the Lady Study Group and the Indian Chamber of Commerce, I extend our sincere gratitude to our esteemed speakers and to all our members and guests for joining us this evening. May I now invite Major General D.K. Singh to please come up on stage and say a few words.
Air Chief Marshal Dhanova, sir, Mrs. Inubala Johal, luminaries of Lady Study Group, officers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a proud privilege for me to be speaking to you all, especially during your Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Mrs. Inu, unfortunately or fortunately, gave me a very, very tall order, as all ladies are very strict with their tasking. She asked me to speak on the strategic environment, the importance of the Northeast, and leadership. And she said, 5 से 7 minutes mein khatam kar lena. Now, so I'll endeavor my best to do so. and heartiest congratulations to the Ladies Study Group on their Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Ladies and gentlemen, when we look at the strategic environment across times, every age has felt that theirs was a time of maximum turmoil. And today, again, we feel so. But then the world has never been peaceful. There has always been turmoil, there has always been wars, and that is what it has been. And if we see world over, it is turmoil more in 3 continents: Asia, Africa, and part of Europe. Americas and Australia generally have been peaceful, though they also have their fair share of trouble, but strategically, they have been reasonably peaceful. Now, you all are aware the world today is seeing 3 major conflicts: the Ukraine-Russia war, which has been going on for almost 3 years plus, the Israel-Hamas war, Iran, and the US. So, and it is impacting not only these countries, it is impacting the world. And what has happened to all the alliances and our institutions like United Nations? They seem to have taken a backseat with almost no say in what is happening across. So that is the environment which is there. Hegemonistic, who has the power is calling the shots. And in the foreseeable future, it is likely to remain so. Now, as India, how is our strategic environment? I will not go into details, but South Asia has its fair share of turmoil, anxiety. We have had wars with neighbors. Today, our neighbors are feeling difficulty either because of ideological reasons, economic constraints, or political turmoil. So we are living with the neighbors who are troubled. And troubled neighbors do not harbor or augur good for us. So this region will also remain in turmoil for some time to come. Now, I'll just quickly cover importance of Northeast. Now, with such luminaries sitting here, I just want to ask, how many, when I say Northeast, I do not include West Bengal into it. How many of us can, without thinking, say the names of 8 states which constitute Northeast India? Okay, there may be few. I will ask, okay, how many of you know the capitals of those? The numbers will be very, very less. So I do not like to divide by saying mainland India and the Northeast, but the point is, most of us are pretty ignorant of what Northeast is all about. Just an overview, it covers about 8% of our country's total area. But if we see the population, it's just about 3%. The GDP of this area, again, is just about 3%. So economically, and if we convert the population demographically, politically also, it is not a main force. So hence, the area has remained neglected over the years. Another thing I'd like to tell you is that we do not realize, we always talk of western borders with Pakistan, which is just about 3,300 some kilometers. When we talk of China, if we remove Northeast, is just about little over 2,000 kilometers. But Northeastern states by itself have borders with 3 countries or 4 countries, which is over 7,000 kilometers. This is equal to our maritime boundary. If you see that V of India, which is the coastal area, is 7,000. So that much of importance this area has, and with the kind of neighbors which I spoke of, they can foment trouble in this area. If we talk of diversity, there are more than 2,000 tribes, 200 main, and if you go into sub-tribes, they almost come up to 2,000. If we talk of resources, about 15% of country's oil comes from here. 50% of tea comes from here. This area has a forest cover of about 50 to 60%. And hydro energy, about 40% of the country's hydro energy comes from this area. And I would say the best resource this region has is the human resource. When we think of our athletes or our teams doing well in Asian Games and Olympics, you see the names, 50% of the names will come from this area. Today, you go to any mall in any metro, you will find young boys and girls working there who did not get enough opportunity in these states, they go out. So they are sturdy, they are hardy, they are willing to work hard. So human capital is something, this area is there. We just need to explore it more and give them more chances. We are all aware of the importance of Siliguri corridor. If it's just a 80 kilometers thing, if it gets severed, the entire Northeast gets isolated. And with this Act East policy of the country, this is the only land link towards these countries. So that is the importance which this region has. Another thing which I like to highlight is insurgency. I will not talk about the insurgency, but I'm trying to say is out of these 8 states, we have had or are having insurgency in 7 states. You'll be glad to know that in 3 states, it has been totally wiped out. In Meghalaya, it started in 1960, got over in Shillong Accord in 2014. Tripura started in 89, finished in 2019. Mizoram started in 1959, ended in 1986. Bodoland, Lower Assam, started in 1990, ended in 2020. What I'm trying to say that we have to give credit to our whole of government approach. Because to eradicate insurgency in a matter of 20, 30 years is something which we do not give ourselves credit for. Whether it is the armed forces, whether it is other security forces, the administration, the polity, everything. Because even in the most developed nations, they have not been able to eradicate terrorism or insurgency in 20 to 30 years. Yes, we have remnants of insurgency in Nagaland and Manipur and parts of Assam, but pretty much under control and work in progress. And I know I'm running towards end of my time. The last part I'll touch upon is leadership. Being in the uniform, you can generally talk about leadership in the forces, but then if we see it, leadership is leadership. It could be in every walk of life, and the tenets remain the same. Firstly, what do I understand by leadership? I think leadership is making the people in your organization do what the organizational goals are willingly. The word is willingly. And that is the difference between a manager and a leader. The manager coerces, bribes, does everything other than motivating to get the work done. So leadership, to my mind, is motivate people to do the things willingly. And some tenets which I think are important. First is the professional competence. Without being professionally competent, I don't think any leader can succeed. Then the leader has to have a vision for the organization, for himself or herself. Then the integrity to the organization and himself. That's immensely important. The decision-making ability and setting the right goals, and thereafter taking the credit or the discredit of those decisions. That, I think, is important as far as leadership is concerned. The leader also needs to understand the environmental realities and what is ongoing. You can't have a wonderful plan without understanding the realities, whether it is economic, political, or cultural. Firmness and fairness in what you do. And lastly, I would say it is running a happy team. By happy team, I don't mean cajoling, but then people should be generally happy with the overall environment, working environment, the goals the organization has. And To conclude, I will just say that as a country, I think what we are doing right now, maintaining our strategic autonomy, we should continue that. These 3 wars have told us that self-reliance is the only way forward, because in bad times, you may get friends, you may not get friends. You got to have your economy strong. That's where LSG and the CII comes in. And strong military, where what Dhanova sir and their peers have motivated us, taught us to do. And we need to forge issue-based alliance. We don't have to get to one block or the other. That is all, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say. Thank you. Jai Hind.
May I request Air Chief Marshal P.S. Dhanova and Barkha Dutt to please come up on stage. Barkha, I hand over to you now.
Good evening or good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be back with all of you at the Ladies Study Group. And that was a very interesting framework set by Sir that allows us to take the conversation forward. I was thinking as I was listening to him about all the experiences I've had with reporting war, from Kargil in 1999 to the most recent experience I had spending 15 days in the United Arab Emirates at the front line of America's war on Iran, reporting several of those days from the closest I could get to the Strait of Hormuz, which is a place many of us probably couldn't place on the map before this war started, but now it's amongst the most Googled phrases of 2025, 2026. And what really leaps out to me is how war has changed. How, as a 20-something reporter at the Kargil front line, the war literally was something that you captured. Of course, the Air Force was there, but like the war was taking place or unfolding quite literally meters away from where I was standing on the national highway. But in Operation Sindoor, in America's Iran war, the war has been mostly taking place in the skies. And it is a much more technologically driven war, and the nature of war has completely transformed. So, Air Chief Marshal, I must start there. In your experience, when we talk about a frontline dialogue, how has war changed in all the conflicts that you have seen, steered, responded to on behalf of India? If you had to describe how the very character of war has changed, what would you say, sir?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for getting me here to Calcutta and to address this August gathering. As far as the question of war has changed, you know, in my opinion, I've got a slightly different opinion. War has not changed. People are still fighting with each other. so that has not changed. It is only the question of what do you want to do?
Yes.
The question is, when you want a behavioral change, you can afford to do it like Sindoor. It is that behavioral change. Or what US is trying to do in Iran. They want a change of behavior. But when you want to change a system or a leadership, you have to get the army into it. As simple as that. I know, he'll bear with me, in NDA, there used to be a saying outside the army training team, victory is still measured by foot. And it's a fact.
So without boots on the ground?
Why? What I'm trying to tell you is, let us go back. Let us imagine. You think Kargil, they would have vacated without the infantry taking them out? No way. आप जितना मर्जी bombing करते रहो, वो नहीं हिलने वाला. Brigadier Samir Azad used to be with me in Staff College in Bravo. He made a very nice statement. You know, he used to say, in the mountains, the enemy has to run away. You can't defeat him. You know, there are so many strong points on a mountain, you can't afford to put LGB on every bomb, on every strong point. So that aspect of war has not changed, because that full-scale war or a war like Bangladesh, in which you change a regime, is not taking place under the current geopolitical environment. You are seeing this kind of war. The question is, will the other one happen? You never know. So while you have to be ready for this kind of war, I am sure you have to also be ready for the war that we all trained to be.
I'll come to conventional war or sub-conventional war, but let's talk a little bit about Trump's attack on Iran. Do you believe that one of the reasons that America has basically in so many ways lost this war or is losing this war is because the Americans are always hesitant to put boots on the ground, because whenever they have in the past, whether it's Afghanistan or Iraq, they've actually never managed to achieve an end goal. And this is a war that they're actually fighting without an end goal.
They had a military objective, and I think they have achieved their military objective very successfully. Today, Iran doesn't have an air force. Iran doesn't have a navy. Iran is not in a military position to do anything to any of its neighbors. Now, I'll just take you back to the Iran-Iraq war. That time also, they were trying to mine ships in the Gulf or Straits of Hormuz, and in fact, one US frigate was struck. After that, they hit the Iranian Navy. But why did Iran not flare up after that? The reason why Iran did not flare up, because they had an Iraqi army on their border. So if the Americans would have done to Iran what they have done now, the Iraqis would have overrun them. So that is the purpose. Now, America, unless its core interests are, you can say, threatened, they will never put boots on the ground. Because where they can send a bomb, they don't want to send a human being. Because people at home, unlike us, when the war takes place, the whole country rallies behind the leadership. People at home are not interested because it does not affect them. Their direct security is not threatened. You do Pearl Harbor, they'll put feet on. You do 9/11, they'll put boots on the ground.
But how do we, as in India, how do we protect our interests in this age of, in a way, unilateralism? Because look, it's Trump's war on Iran. You say the military objectives have been achieved, but the Iranians have still managed to treat the Hormuz Strait as a choke point, because of which our economy here sitting in India is impacted. Our Prime Minister has appealed for austerity, for cutting down in fuel use, for avoiding foreign travel, for not buying gold. It shows that even a war that we have nothing to do with can actually hurt us.
No, it has affected us, there's no doubt on that. But my question is simple, that I'm very surprised that when the Americans started this whole thing, did they not have a red team? Did they not think what Iran is going to do in this thing? And this was a foregone conclusion. And they should have, what was their plan to overcome this? You see, Iran is not in a position to militarily hurt the United States significantly. What Iran is in a position today is to have a lot of nuisance value, and he's hitting the soft targets, which is the Straits of Hormuz, tankers, which are unarmed, and he's hitting the Gulf countries, which are somehow weaker in their air defense. I'm totally surprised. In India also, all army people are there with us. We have a 3-tier defense for every VA and VP. I just want to bring it out here. How many drones came across during Ops Sindoor, and what damage did they do? And how come they couldn't do any damage? As compared to that, the drones have done so much damage into the Middle East. So obviously there's something that we are doing that they were not doing right. I'm very surprised how they did not war game this. And everyone who has dissuaded America, not defeated, after Second World War, dissuaded America has done so by pulling the population against the leadership. That is exactly what the Vietnamese did. Okay, the population went against the government and the US had to withdraw. That is exactly what happened after a long time when they were in Iraq, after a long time when they were in Afghanistan. So Iran has played that game. They know if the pump prices will go up, this thing will happen, the whole world will, have a problem. Americans will have to withdraw. So that was their game plan. I don't know how the Americans didn't see.
Would you say America has lost this war?
No, it has not lost the war. Means militarily it has
not
lost.
Militarily, but politically.
See, in narrative,
economically.
In narrative, they have suffered a lot. Because, this is not a clean walkover as they thought that it was going to be. It is not a regime change that they hoped it will happen. If they wanted a regime change, they had to put boots on the ground. Or at least the timing had to be right. In January, when all the protests were going on, that is the time you have to do it. Now, all the people who are protesting were jail mein. So, ab aap bomb kar rahe ho. Who's going to come and do the regime change? Nobody.
It's often said that what the Americans call the Middle East and we call West Asia or the Gulf is almost like an extension of India's interest. There are 10 million Indians who live and work in these countries. I'm sure a lot of people here, please raise your hand if you have relatives or friends or even your own connections in the UAE or Dubai. Do raise your hand. I'm sure we'll see a lot of hands go up. Now, this is very interesting because when I was there, I would have thought that, you know, the UAE must be regretting allowing the Americans to come in. But the UAE at this point has actually been quite conflicted because great economic devastation to them, but now they're scared of an emboldened Iran. What happens to a city like Dubai that was created as this sort of oasis, economic oasis, this, you know, this place where the wealthy could go and seek a future, where so many poor workers from India go and send remittances back home? What do you see as the future of Dubai?
Dubai has taken a big hit as far as safe haven, being a safe haven is concerned, because of what Iran has been able to do to them. It is not that they have destroyed all the refineries, but they've been able to damage it to the extent that people are not willing to take a risk. And when people are not willing to take a risk, why should they go to Dubai? They'll go somewhere else. They'll go to Panama or wherever else they want to go. So yes, in that, Dubai has taken a big hit as far as their, you know, the destination that they were building themselves to be. In that, they have suffered a lot. But you see, this should have been anticipated. And they should have had systems in place. I'm sure if they had the three-tier defense that we had, उनके ये refineries वगैरह wouldn't have been hit. VAs and VP, you cannot protect cities with three-tier defense, but VAs and VPs you can definitely protect. And there's no reason why a single refinery should have gone up in flames if you had the systems in place.
And I'll come to how we responded to Pakistani drones and missiles in Op Sindoor in just a moment. But I have one other question on India and our response to the Iran war. It's been hotly debated. I think we calibrated our position also along the way. We have relationships with both sides of the divide, Israel and Iran. And certainly we have a somewhat more fraught relationship today with the United States of America, but still structurally a deep one. Do you believe that we should have got more involved, as some people suggest, in being a mediator? Do you think that I don't think this, but I still have to ask the question, do you think that we should have taken the space before Nasim Munir could get hold of it?
I don't know. This question is well above my pay grade. So I think you need to ask this to the national leadership. But whatever I will like to say is that, you know, I think we have played our cards well. And at least, though only 13 ships have come, which is more than that used to come in a day earlier. But ठीक है, आ तो रहे हैं ना. So I think that is the way but this actually the answer to your question is something that can be answered at a very high level in the government. That what should we have done?
Are you concerned, as such a senior military veteran, at this new cozy love affair between Trump and Nasim Munir?
I think Americans have always quoted the Pakistanis right from Lyndon B. Eisenhower's time, whenever they needed them. Okay, and then in the second, the war that took place in the first Afghan war when the Soviets were there, and Zia-ul-Haq was there, they again quoted them. But after that, they have always been dumping them. I mean, so this.
So use and throw.
This use cycle is there. Unlike us, because you see, we are economically interlinked. Pakistan has got no economic interlinking. Pakistan doesn't even have a middle class. It has got rich class and it has got poor class. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. So, I mean, there's no economic interest of the United States. And ultimately, why people get together in the current global world order is then your economic interests have to be common.
But sir, I want to ask you, there was a day last week, I think, maybe a few days ago, when on one day, I think it was the 13th, Trump was in China meeting Xi Jinping, and in India we had Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov and Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi meeting with Prime Minister Modi. The BRICS foreign ministers were meeting. Now look at the world today. You have Pakistan playing this sort of double, triple game, being a vassal of China, sucking up to the Americans, playing a double game according to the Americans by providing Iranian jets, hiding in shelter while pretending to be a fair broker in this mediation game. And you have Trump trying to cut a deal with China. Now, why I'm saying all of this, and I know your head must be spinning, is the Army's vice chief on record said about Operation Sindoor that the Indian military was not just fighting Pakistan. It was fighting a second adversary, China. China was providing real-time intelligence and all of the sort of weaponry support. Now, when we look at this churn that is taking place, how should we calibrate our responses and our security interests?
As far as Operation Sindoor goes, see, I'm a civilian, so I know as much as what you know.
So you are today.
No. I'm just trying to tell
Firstly,
you.
a man in uniform and a woman in uniform remains always that. They
No,
never
no.
become civilians.
No,
But,
so my sources of knowledge are as good or as bad as yours.
no, but what is your
But
understanding?
what I have learned from that, whatever come out in the open domain, that yes, in their ISR cycle,
Yeah.
targeting of especially our assets, the S-400 and things like that, the Chinese are giving them help big time. So Chinese have, from 62 war onwards, always they used to feed the insurgency in the northeast. They used to train them. Then they always used to support Pakistan. So it's wishful thinking to say that China will change its behavior, no matter what your trade and all goes. That they have got a long-term interest of you not having, two tigers on a mountain. So the second tiger is India. So they have to, at regular intervals, try and put India in its place whenever they feel like it. So this is not going to change. As far as our relationship with the rest of the countries goes, I think the government has taken the right thing that India has to grow economically. And if India grows economically and becomes big, and everybody has a stake in the success of their economy based on the trade that they're doing with the Indian economy, then, the confluence of interest will automatically take place.
Is it fair then to say, we've always been very proud of our soft power, our democracy, our cultural, civilizational history, and so on. But is it fair to say that the last, I would say, 2 years, 3 years, have shown us that actually we need hard power in today's world, whether that is economic growth, whether that is military capacity? And where do we stand on that, particularly the latter? There's been a lot of debate about modernization. Is it proceeding fast enough, and so on?
Modernization is a process that is, continuing in the armed forces. Now that I have retired, it is sometimes it was very, very painful because it is very slow. Because we are slaves of the process.
And the process is made...
Not on performance.
But ये किसका process है?
Government का process है.
No, so you mean this is too much bureaucracy?
Yeah. I think General 𝐷𝐾 made the statement that, in the defense procurement process is like a game of snakes and ladders in which there are only snakes and no ladders. If you all have played that snakes and ladders game, 98 पे एक snake bite करता था, आप सीधा 8 पे आते थे. So when you are about to sign the contract, they'll say, no, reissue RFP. Tuck.
Yeah.
So you start off all over again.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why you can say one of the biggest hindrances to modernization that I have seen throughout my time as the vice chief and the chief. It is not that people don't want to get it, people want to get it, but it takes time. But hats off to the government. From URI onwards, emergency purchases have been sanctioned. Okay, after URI they were sanctioned, after Balakot they were sanctioned, I believe after Galwan also they were sanctioned, in which the critical requirement of the armed forces have gone and bought it themselves. And some of the things they have bought, without going through the whole laborious process, are things which are not even there in their inventory. One is replenishment of stock, second is got equipment which is not there in your inventory, which you felt is operational necessary. So they gave this space to the armed forces that, okay, whatever is critical to you, please go and get it. So given that, and see, after Balakot, Touchwood, you had 6 years of peace till Pulwama. Okay.
Yeah.
Pakistan is like that. Usko danda marna padta hai and it behaves for some time. And depends on how big is the danda. 1971, the danda was so big that for next, almost till 91, you had peace. 20 years. So, unfortunately, that is the neighbor we live with.
Yeah.
So, you have to have a military capability to deter him from doing whatever he wants to do. The moment he feels that, he's not able to... See, there was no insurgency to the level of Kashmir when Punjab was going on. Why? Because they didn't have the nuclear weapon. The moment they got the nuclear weapons, around 86, 87 or something like that, that is when Kashmir flared up. Because now they were emboldened that, see, India cannot cut us into half like what they had done in Bangladesh.
Right.
So our ability to ensure peace and security is to have armed forces that have got the capability to deter our enemies. Going to war means your deterrence has failed.
Let's talk about Uri, Balakot, Opsindur. Galwan also takes place in the middle, which leads to a militarization of eastern Ladakh. But in terms of our conflicts with Pakistan, these have been the three. And in each, India's response has intensified. How we have chosen to respond in one, surgical strikes across the line of control. In a second, going in but targeting from the air. And third, actually targeting the Lashkar and Jaish terror headquarters inside Pakistan's Punjab. And then, of course, we've seen a number of Pakistani air bases completely decimated. I want you to talk about, if you had to explain to this audience, the journey from Uri to Opsindur. How do you see it in terms of India's response?
See, in Uri, the forward launch pads were neutralized. Because after all, they had killed so many of our soldiers. The purpose was that till then, the Indian state had not responded militarily to any of the terrorist attacks on Indian soil, though there was such huge, the Bombay the attacks in that Bombay that took place and the Bombay bomb blast which had taken place earlier. So this was a paradigm shift that yes, now onwards we'll respond militarily. So when it came to Balakot, they were also smart. I think they had vacated all the forward things. So the question was, the target was chosen which belonged to Jaish-e-Mohammed. Okay, because they are the people who did the strike. So once again, the government sanctioned it.
Yeah.
Now, why did the government sanction it? I was lucky enough that when I was a wing commander, I was under Air Chief Marshal Krishna Swamy that time. And the briefing that was being given to Vajpayee ji and things like that after the parliament attack, in that also the Air Force had shown target pictures to Vajpayee ji, target photos were shown to him, and said these are the 5-6 terrorist camps we can take out. But again, decision well above my pay grade, this strike which was supposed to take place did not take place. For whatever reasons. At least for Balakot what happened is, all three services told the government that we are ready. Because if all three services don't tell the government that they are ready, how can the government give you a go-ahead? Because you don't know how he'll respond. He may not respond through air, he may respond through the sea, or he may respond through the land. So before this, all three services had not told them, the government. So that is how the Balakot airstrikes took place. Now, when you came to Opsindur, by now the other side knows what you are going to do. So while Balakot, the strike itself, the first one, was a total surprise. Their nearest aircraft was 150 kilometers away. In Sindur, they were ready for you.
Correct.
So it was a force-on-force engagement that took place on Sindur. And after that, with persistent attack capability, we were able to hit so many of their bases. Basically, this time we made sure that we had the images, we had everything, so that even that perception battle, there is no doubt on that. But the fact remains that Pakistan Air Force, every 10 years, it takes out a book. And it says, this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing. And they always say our primary role is air defense. What is the purpose of air defense? The purpose of air defense is not allowing the enemy to attack you. So they have failed in their primary role. This is exactly what we showed them in Opsindur. So government has calibrated a response based on what the other side has done. So it is not that we have gone whole hog and we have gone into a full-scale war or something like that. They have calibrated their response, which I think is which has been done quite nicely.
Now, India's air defense was spectacular in Opsindur. I don't know here in Kolkata whether you must have seen those images only on your televisions or your laptops, but I was in Punjab in Operation Sindoor, and wherever we were driving through at night, the sky would be sort of filled with these orange balls of fire, for lack of a better metaphor, which were basically our air defenses intercepting Pakistani drones and missiles as they were coming in. Now, I know, Air Chief Marshal, you started by saying that war badli nahi, at its heart, it's the same thing. But the manifestation, the visual manifestation of military conflict did change. I think Opsindur was the first time we saw or we experienced this drone and missile warfare. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we should be adapting to it, how we need to prepare for it? When you look at Ukraine and Russia, look at the Ukrainians, again, smaller power, using drones to get under the skin of the Russians.
See, drones are effective if you don't have the weapon for it, as simple as that.
Yeah.
The drone, the Shahed 136 or whatever it is, the wingspan is more than my height. And it is something 10 or 11 feet tall. And any AD gunners out here, it's a juicy target. All that you were seeing in Punjab when all this thing was happening are AD guns engaging their drones. So unfortunately, the Western world, most of them said is AD guns are obsolete. वो तो हटा दिए उन्होंने. Now you are firing a Raytheon ka missile which has cost so many $1 million on a drone which costs only $25,000. So the equation has not worked. But the equation worked out in our favor because we had our AD guns. And that is how the drones have not been able to do damage. The system of procurement, like I told you, everything takes time, of close-in weapon systems started when I was the vice chief. Okay, 2015 we got the A1. I'm sure by now must be in position. With that, you can shoot down even this chota shadi wala drone. You know, I'm just trying to say, the longer the range of the drone, the bigger the size it gets. The bigger the size it gets, the more easy it is for you to intercept. Because unlike an aircraft, a drone does not maneuver. Unlike an aircraft, a drone does not have an integrated electronic warfare system that can defeat your air defense system. Our only problem with the drone is, can you detect it? And do you have people in place who can destroy it at optimum cost?
Which we did brilliantly in Opsindur, yes.
Which they have not done. That is all that I'm trying to say.
But if we had to take a lesson for it and prepare, you know, they say that you always have to be prepared for war and that's how you keep the peace. So if we had to be prepared, God forbid, for the next Opsindur, how should we be intensifying our preparedness for missile and drone warfare or for artificial intelligence? Let's also come to that.
No, counter-drone warfare, and this thing is big time. Like you must have read, the government, the armed forces have taken separate measures on that. Your ability to hit the other side with drones and your ability to counter his drones, I think both sides, I'm sure the Pakistanis also would have done the same. We have made significant progress in that. It is just a question of getting the right systems to counter the drone. And the biggest problem with artificial intelligence coming in is, what does artificial intelligence do? Artificial intelligence allows you in a small aeroplane to crunch a lot of numbers. If you can crunch a lot of numbers, then what happens is, you don't need even guidance from satellites and things like that. Your system will become autonomous. And that is the biggest danger that AI poses to us. If the drones become autonomous, then you, like today, in today's environment of what was happening in Sindoor, the moment you jammed his communication or GPS and things like that, the drone used to sit down.
Yeah.
So with AI-equipped drone, that is not going to happen. And secondly, because drone is a piston engine, he doesn't have to come at 20,000 feet or 30,000 feet. He'll come quite low level. So your reaction time for detecting of the drone is going to be quite low. And he's going to be autonomous, so you can't jam him. So you have to have the kinetic weapons to make sure you shoot it down. So this is
and are we abreast with changing technologies?
If I can say this, I'm sure the people who are in uniform would have thought about it.
I have to open up for 10 minutes of questions, but I have one last question for you on Opsindur. We had a new national security doctrine, as explained by the Prime Minister himself after Opsindur, that every act of terror of the kind we saw in Pahalgam would be, we would increase the pain for the adversary. Now, there is an escalatory ladder. It has to be managed. It has to be calibrated. How do we manage this escalatory ladder? Does it mean, a lot of people may ask you, does it mean every time there's a terror attack, we go to war or we go to military conflict? Opsindur has not ended. We're strictly in pause mode. How do we manage this new doctrine?
I think the way Opsindur was conducted, if you see most of the Air Force strikes that took place subsequently, not the first, let me tell you, I think 7 out of the 9 targets were taken out by the army. Please don't overlook them. And it was all in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, so what the 2 you are mentioning were the ones in depth, they were taken out by the Air Force.
Yeah.
Rest ye Bagh, Kale, Nikyal. I remember when I was a wing commander, mere target hote the. So, so they were all taken out by the army, okay, across the line of control. So now the question is the way it was managed, the targets that were being selected by, of course, the Air Force and the national leadership 100% would have put a stamp to it, was seen that they were, subsequently I'm talking of, how much collateral, how many civilians did you kill, how much collateral damage was there? No. You are only targeting the military. That is how you are controlling the escalation ladder.
Yeah.
Now, if you suppose hit something or you hit their nuclear facility or something like that, the escalation, it will spill out of control. So this control of the process of targeting of the Air Force, you know, earlier it was a pure military decision. Now it is a politico-military decision. And that is how the government, I think, has been able to control the escalation ladder. We have inflicted enough pain on them so that they came to us to ask for a ceasefire.
Absolutely.
Because then they realized that they have not been able to do something to us. Because they tried their level best. I believe whatever some people told me, towards the end they were desperate to do some damage to Indian Air Force airfield, but they could not achieve it. Okay, so then they realized that it is fruitless for them to carry on, and they are constantly being pounded. Their command and control centers, you know, if you see in the satellite images, you will see beach field mein ek hole ho gaya. But if any of you have got even Google Earth on your computer, just go some years back. You'll go some years back, you will find वहाँ पे underground वो construct हो रहा है. अभी वहाँ पे घास है, but पहले वहाँ पे building बनी है नीचे. So even their command and control centers, which were buried under the ground, have been hit, and you can see the black soot all over. So they were being systematically being punished, which forced them to come to ask for a ceasefire.
But may I just say in the end that there's also the very, very admirable military ethos of our armed forces, Air Chief Marshal. I saw it in the 𝐅𝐫𝐨𝐧𝐭 war when Pakistan wouldn't even take back the bodies of their soldiers, and we as in the Indian military performed the last rites of these soldiers who'd been sent in to fight us. But even you just mentioned that, you know, we were carefully calibrating, minimizing even civilian damage on the other side. When you contrast it with the Americans, for example, who did a double tap strike on a girls' school in Iran, I just want to salute the ethos of our military. If you have any last thoughts on that before I open up for the questions.
No, I want to just add one thing to it. See, जो brown man करता है ना, उसको कोई recognize नहीं करता.
हम करते हैं ना.
Okay, now let me tell you.
हम करते हैं ना.
देखो, 1971 we liberated Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, all Indian soldiers were back.
Yeah.
I just read Business Standard about 2 weeks back. Their per capita income is going to overtake ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to tell you. Americans, they liberated Afghanistan, उनका हाल देख लो. They liberated Syria, उनका हाल देख लो. Okay, they liberated Libya, उनका हाल देख लो. They liberated Iraq, उनका हाल देख लो. Okay, so I think we are far better and far superior in our management of our conflict and post-conflict resolution. They're exceptionally good in their military this thing. But we are far superior in our management of post-conflict this thing.
I don't think there's anything like our armed forces. Poll after poll shows that it's India's most trusted institution. So let me take this moment to applaud all of the men and women in uniform for your courage and your public service. I have been shaped deeply by my experience as a reporter of military matters, and really it is an extraordinary institution, our armed forces. We have time for some questions, I think. If anybody has a question, I see some hands at the back. So you may want to, yeah, let's start here in the middle. Yeah, if the light is on, that would be great. Thank you. Yes.
Hello. So I have this question where I want to ask, what is that aspect of our national preparedness which most of us civilians underestimate?
See, there are two types of, one is what is seen in the public domain, what is not seen in the public domain. Lot of it gets done which is not seen in the public domain. But you will only realize it once an actual conflict takes place. Okay. But we cannot advertise. We don't show our prowess. Like, you know, like this time what happened is, we showed you every building, you know, where have we hit in Op Sindoor, because commercial satellite imagery has become much more clearer. During Balakot, we could not show you that because commercial imagery was not so good. And we can't show you that this is our capability right now just to win an argument or win a debate. But if you put the same commercial imagery which is available now, and you see the damage in Balakot, and you see that in Bhavalpur and Muridke, you'll find same holes in both places. In fact, Vice Chief made a statement, the Air Force, that this is the capability. So what is underestimated outside is because we don't, obviously, for obvious reasons, we don't show our present capability in the public domain.
Yeah. I saw another hand at the back. If you could stand up, it would be easier for the mic to find you. Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, Army has been asking for a separate pay commission to the government. And it feels very disheartened that Army, jo hum log aapko salute karte hain as true heroes. What do you feel about the pay commission just now? Because paramilitary forces, police, and Agniveer jo aapne launch kiya tha, so was it a success? Because वो तो training ground हो गई, और फिर पुलिस में join कर लेते हैं, paramilitary join कर लेते हैं. What about Army? So do you think was it a success? And what about you say कि pay commission? आप बोलेंगे तो हम लोग सब public आपके साथ खड़े हो जाएंगे, because we feel for you as pay commission कि why is that you are paid like that and police can go. मतलब बाकी सारे जन हम लोग जानते हैं because we've been associated with Army friends, so we feel that. So is anything being done for that?
Pay commission, military representation, NFU.
No, let me correct you on that. When Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister, this was this 2006 or 7 wala pay commission. He had given a clear this thing to the military to have a separate pay commission. Okay, after that, that level 3, the colonels and left wing commanders not there, whereas the counterpart in BSF and Coast Guard were there in some grade 4 or 3. That time he had given a clear this thing that armed forces can have a separate pay commission if they so decide. In the next COSC, when the pay commission of 2017 was to take place, I'm forgetting 7th pay commission or whatever, armed forces elected not to have a separate pay commission. So you can't blame the government for it. And as far as pay commission goes, it is inter se, you can say, seniority or parity that they try to maintain the best. Now, I am not a finance guy a hell of a lot, but whatever your concerns are, I'll give you a true story. In the 7th pay commission, whatever it was, somebody decided that officers' free ration should be removed. And they should be given that 100 rupees or some ridiculous amount of figure in lieu, correct? So, RM was the current finance minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman. She had a very good thing. There were times, she used to say daily, but hafte mein 2 baar to ho jata tha, in which she used to have a meeting with the 3 chiefs and only she used to be there. Even the secretary never used to be there. So this was a heart-to-heart discussion, and then after that, so that nobody is judging anybody. You can say what you want. So in that, the 3, Admiral Lamba was the chairman COSC, and Bipin Rawat and me, we told her, I said, ma'am, ये जो आपने किया है, उससे आर्मी का नफरी में एक बंदा कम नहीं हुआ ASC से. Because distribution of officers' ration is done by officers, we pay for it. And there is no change. What have you saved? Full marks to her. She took a decision and she reinstated it. So MOD ने reinstate कर लिया. As usual, वो बाबूगिरी तो होती है. MOD से गया Ministry of Finance में, और Ministry of Finance में somebody sat on it. I don't know who sat on it. So till that government got over 2019 के election से पहले, the file was stuck in Ministry of Finance. So when she became the finance minister, I had to call on her. She was my ex-boss. So I took a bouquet and called on her. First thing, you know what she told me? She said, Chief, I have cleared the free ration. You take the credit for it. Because I'm chairman COSC. I said, no, ma'am, why should I take the credit? You should take the credit for it. Okay, so she cleared it. And that is how you people have got your free rations back. So what I'm going to tell you, it is not that. You have to, dekho, I have a saying, a maxim that I have maintained throughout my service career. Please don't try and win an argument. Win the decision. Okay. So you have to appeal to your logic. अब आप public stance ले लोगे, ये कैसे ये वो सरकार के खिलाफ, बस खत्म. That is the end of story. कुछ नहीं होने वाला.
Okay, I'm told we're at the end of time. Maybe I'll take one last question. Here, in the front. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, just stand. They'll find you easier if you stand. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So earlier the wars would normally finish in weeks or months. That's what we have seen. But today's wars have been continuing for years. And so much of uncertainty going on. What is your take on that? And how do you see? Like, even if I have to travel, I know you are taking detour from every possible Middle East area, but still it's a worry for you because everything is with drones and the war is very different these days. What is your thought on that?
The length of wars. Are we back to an age of forever wars?
No, actually, it is at a very low scale. The Ukraine-Russia war, which is taking place, is at a very much lower tempo than what you can say India-Pakistan war of, say, 1971 or India-Pakistan war of 65. Okay, so at this low tempo of war, with some troops are engaging with each other, they are continuing indefinitely. But, right, I'm telling you a truth. I'm in a board of companies. In one of our boards, one of my foreign members asked in the month of February when Putin had placed his forces and he was showing it to the whole world on satellite imagery where his forces are to threaten Ukraine. So he said, will he fight? I said, no. I said, if you have to fight, you can't show your forces. You have to hide. It was bound to fail. The best example you want to see how to hide your forces, you should see the Chinese in the Korean War, the Chosun Reservoir, and they were across there, and how they stood in huts. They didn't even get place to sleep, where they thought there was a brigade. In fact, there were 2-3 divisions which came and attacked next day morning. So that is how you fight. You don't fight like this. पहले सारे दिखा दिया तुमने. उसके बाद you will fight, obviously you will get stalled. How do you expect to win? We don't show ourselves. Okay, so you can't see, it's a different scenario. That is not applicable to us. Let me tell you, in our case, it is a tri-service game. All 3 people have got armed, all 3 are there. You can't say we'll only bomb. No. What happens if we send the army? You can't do without the army. So our wars are totally different from what they are going to fight. But they don't have so much, they don't have manpower to start with, like what we have got. So they can't commit manpower. And Americans, they have got they don't want to lose anybody. How can you win a war without losing anybody? We are willing, because people are willing to sacrifice themselves for the country because we feel we are fighting for a cause.
Yeah.
They feel you are fighting for, an economic reason or some, political reason. They are not fighting for a cause. If you are fighting for a cause, you will definitely put everything that you have got into it.
Well, we could spend hours talking, but unfortunately that luxury of time is not available to us. A final hat tip to the spirit of sacrifice that Air Chief Marshal invoked. A big thank you to our armed forces and to this wonderful audience. Thank you.
Good evening, members, dignitaries, and invited guests. As we conclude this truly enriching session, I rise on behalf of Ladies Study Group to express our heartfelt gratitude. We are deeply honored to have had with us Air Chief Marshal Birendra Singh Dhanua and Major General D.K. Singh, 2 distinguished officers whose insights today went far beyond the headlines, giving us a rare window into the realities of command and national security. Our sincere thanks to the remarkable Ms. Barkha Dutt for steering the conversation with her characteristic sharpness and depth. LSG sincerely thanks members of the press for their valuable coverage. Our appreciation to Taj Bengal for their gracious hospitality. May I now invite our General Governing Body member, Mrs. Preeti Goenka, and Mrs. Madhu Nevatia, to kindly come up and present a token of appreciation to our guest speakers.